Now I know the beef is technically over, right? Everybody know that Kendrick won. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I I've heard Drake music. Of course, I've heard his music. Feel like everybody have, but I wasn't like searching for Drake. You know, when I'm in the gym, a lot of times I listen to Kendrick. I listen to a lot of music, man. I just, I don't know, man. It just seemed like Drake just embodied the word corny to me. Now I know he got a lot of hits. I know that, but I mean, to each his own. To each his own. Got this video here from Fantastic Hip Hop, which I'll leave in the description for you guys to check out more and even subscribe. Why Drake is now blaming Kendrick and Spotify for his album flop. You know this brother was trying to sue people, trying to sue React or involving some reactors in a lawsuit, saying that they were allowed to monetize. Then, you've had people like Screwface who showed he had videos that he reacted to from Drake. He was able to monetize. So I don't know, man. I saw that video with him with all the holes in his hoodie with the smoke coming out. I saw the clip of him throwing DeMar DeRozan jersey down. I don't know, man. Sometimes you forget how old this brother is. We ain't gonna waste no more time. Let's jump right into it.
Now, when it comes to Drake, the absolute meltdown he is having right now because his brand new collab album with Party Next Door, SSS for You, is doing terrible is something like we have never seen before, because with what Drake is doing now, it's truly the ultimate form of defeat, as beyond ever accepting any sort of accountability and looking at how he can improve himself and see what went wrong with this new album and entire era in his career, Drake is doing one of the most pathetic things anyone can do, which is try to blame every single person but himself on why this record is doing so bad. And now, before we go any further into just how desperate what Drake is doing is to try and create a distraction from how bad the release of this album actually is, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And just as I have said in my past few videos, the Drake fans are still mad at me and they really don't want you to hear what I have to say, so please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out a ton and make sure that we can all see just how terrible this downfall from Drake has gotten.
Again, if you're a fan of Drake, that's fine. Everybody has what they want to listen to. I ain't saying that his music sucks. He got a lot of like good songs. I'm just talking about like him. I don't know. He just try to act like he's like I don't know, man. His brother. Especially when you grew up in the streets in the hood and stuff, and you see people trying to like infiltrate that ain't really about that life. It's like, bro, just stick to what you're good at. Like, why is that so hard?
So now with that out of the way, when it comes to what is easily already the worst album release Drake has ever had with SSS for You, overall, when it comes to the trajectory of Drake's entire career and how it has all led to this pathetic point, it is absolutely wild to see how one of the biggest artists in Drake reached a point where after managing to lose every single thing he had all because of his own carelessness, that he didn't just double down in this losing strategy that has taken away every single thing from him, but that he decided to release the most important album he ever has directly off the method that has left him without any sort of success for over a year at this point. And now after all of this, which of course has resulted in the actual album we have gotten in SSS for You, as Drake has seen this album open up with half the streams that his last album For All the Dogs did. And in its following days, the record has put up the worst streaming numbers he has ever seen for new music. For Drake, despite the fact that he put out an album that was so bad that it seriously has lines like this, and of course nobody is listening to it because who even wanted this in the first place? In an attempt to try and avoid and ever facing his own failure for releasing a horrible album that nobody asked for. As at the same time as all of this, the current landscape of the charts are showing Kendrick Lamar to be reaching
uh,
all-time levels of success, as from top albums to top songs, Kendrick has music from all eras of his career changing how hip-hop is being seen by everyone, which of course, this is all because of his own success and the momentum from the Super Bowl. Right now, as Drake is seeing an all-time low in success, and Kendrick is never doing better, Drake has started to find his new way to try and cope with the fact that his time on top is over, and now he's really no longer even anywhere near the top list of stars in rap or in music as a whole right now. Because after seeing the failure of his new album with Party Next Door and the success that Kendrick Lamar has had simultaneously, while Drake won't say it directly, Drake has made it very clear by both telling his good buddy Act to
now I don't think it's technically over for him. I mean, that clip with the holes in his hoodie, it looked like he had a lot of people at the concert. What I'm saying is, if you're like a real fan of hip hop, like a real fan, uh, I ain't saying you ain't gonna listen to Drake, but you just not gonna take him serious, you know? You know what I mean? That's what I feel. But I don't think it's over.
Because after seeing the failure of his new album with Party Next Door and the success that Kendrick Lamar has had simultaneously, while Drake won't say it directly, Drake has made it very clear by both telling his good buddy Act to spread certain narratives, which he is now supporting and interacting with to get his entire fan base angry at the music industry, and of course not at him and his own failure. Now what Drake wants everyone to think is that the reason why SSS for You is doing so bad is because the industry is suppressing the album, and they are not just blocking Drake, but they are pushing Kendrick Lamar's numbers to go up further and further. And I mean, with all of this, while we can definitely say that Drake's numbers are no longer being inflated because his relationship with the industry has completely changed, as again, he did crumble his own image there by putting them within a whole suit. Still, even with that said, what we can also obviously see is that Drake is not being suppressed, but what is clear is that for the first time in really his entire career, he has been placed on the same playing field that every other rapper has ever been on for the most part, which means that their success is only going as far as they can take it with a quality record that also resonates with as many people as possible. And again, why this is all so obvious is because while Drake is trying to say that he is being pushed out of the industry and that they are doing nothing to help him and this record, if you just look around at the truth and not what he's saying. This album was on the cover of every streaming platform when it dropped, and it was featured heavily across the biggest general, rap, and R&B playlists on them as well. And so when you see this and also see how Drake is trying to push this narrative that he has no support, and yet the album and its songs were all over major playlists and on the front of these platforms, and they were also being posted, what we are seeing is that just like when Family Matters and Not Like Us came out, these platforms do what they are supposed to do first, which is to allow the people to facilitate what they want to listen to, and based on what gets a better response. Which in this instance, it was either Drake's new album or GNX and Kendrick's diss tracks and entire catalog.
Yeah.
Overall, more people are listening to Kendrick Lamar than this new Drake album. So because of this, now the platforms push what's popular based off the recommendations of what the people have chosen. And it really does not take an expert to see how these things work.
For all of you out there who have listened to Drake's new album, like, how is it compared to his, the music he normally put out? Because I mean, I don't plan on listening to it. I know I'm gonna come by it listening to probably the radio, although I only listen to K-Day, but when I'm in the car with my wife, she may have some songs. I don't know. But how is the album on a scale of 1 to 10?
When we are on the highest stage, of course. And again, we are looking at the actual facts and not the narratives that people like Drake and Ack are trying to push. And just adding to my point even more, and really showing how delusional Drake is, because all he is trying to do by blaming Kendrick Lamar, GNX, and the industry for being pushed over his album is really just give himself a pass for this album failing and ultimately letting his fans give him more time to try and do just one thing right, is that when we compare this Drake and Party album to another recent collab record in hip-hop with Vultures 1, that record was actually being suppressed as it was pulled off platforms and had no support from any of the streamers whatsoever. which then meant you could not find the album unless you went to the artist pages directly, as everything else was hiding it, and it got no playlisting, which is one of the big things that boost these albums in the first place. And what's so funny is that even with all of us seeing how that record was actually being suppressed by the industry, really just showing how bad Drake's failure is, as the people just do not care what he is doing. Vultures didn't just outstream Drake and Party's album on its opening days and beyond, but it ended up becoming a #1 album and had a #1 song with Carnival as well. And so really, when you just understand the music industry a little and look beyond the scope of Drake and Kendrick and compare SSS for You to Vultures 1, we can clearly see that what's actually happening is that Drake is trying to push a story that didn't actually happen, because you can see the clear support from the industry that this record got, which again, in comparison, when we saw how the music world reacted to an album that they did not want to see succeed, just how far they went to try and prevent it from even being seen by the people with Vultures. And so clearly with Drake and Party's record, this is just not the same case, no matter how they want to talk about it. And so moving beyond the lies, when it comes to really what's happening with Drake and Party Next Door, I got bad news for Drake fans, but the record is not being suppressed. And in actuality, it's just not a good record, and people do not care about it. And if you just look around at the entire landscape of how people are currently interacting with music, just look at the trends and what people are talking about. Drake just lost the listening base that used to tune into his work no matter what, and whether he lost the rap fans to Kendrick Lamar, who again, in this time with GNX being out, he has just redefined and set a new bar for what a mainstream blockbuster rap album should look like.
Yes.
And because of this, an album like GNX is still seeing songs top the chart for the first time, while Drake and Party's album is doing worse than anybody could have even imagined, and it's just been out for a few days. And now even beyond hip-hop, as this is an R&B album technically, with the competition there being people like SZA and The Weeknd. Again, the people have just chosen to support other artists in this time who are releasing better albums, and if you listen to all of these records, whether it's GNX, Lana, or Hurry Up Tomorrow compared to SSS for You, it won't take you long to figure out why all these albums are outperforming Drake's, and this is just because they offer a way better experience. And really, what's so confusing about all of this is that Drake had time to listen and compare his record to the work of all three of these names and so many others in the industry who are doing great things, and when it comes to Drake's downfall overall, when this is looked back on and people try to understand how an artist who was unable to lose even when dropping bad music for so long was eventually able to fall this much, one of the reasons that will be very clear is that Drake did not ever properly estimate any of his competition and just believed that because something was from him, that it would be able to outperform anything, whether it was one of the greatest diss tracks of all time from Kendrick, one of the biggest rap albums of all time from Kendrick as well, or one of the most anticipated R&B albums from The Weeknd. And beyond this being such a flawed way of thinking for anybody, this is why this album is doing so bad, because pretty much what Drake entered into one of the most competitive times in the music industry with was a collection of throwaway songs from For All the Dogs and CLB that have Party Next Door thrown onto them, and again, between the failure to make not even good but interesting and engaging music, and the fact that he is not getting that unfair boost that only he did because of the place the industry used to hold him in. When we look at the failure of this album, Drake...
I'm listening and I'm looking at all these clips and stuff, and Drake just seems like a try hard. He seems like he wants to fit in so much instead of just making his own lane. I think he would be, or has been, extremely successful in that. It's just when he tried to indulge in like I just don't know, man. I don't know, man. I'm from South Central LA. I lived in Compton for I don't know how many years. Went to Compton High, went to Mayor's High in LA, and you see a lot. You see a lot going around. A lot of things, man. And to make it out is a huge accomplishment, man. Because a lot of us, people say to see 21, man, I had so many people I knew who lost their lives at a very, very young age. A lot of them were in gangs. A lot of them weren't. So I'm just saying, when you come from that rough upbringing, and a lot of times it may not even be your fault. It's just the area you live in. As a child, there's nothing you can do about that. So people like Kendrick, and it's a lot of people who witness a lot of that stuff. I just don't get that vibe from Drake, but it seems like he wants to be a part of that for some reason. You know? Like I don't know.
Drake has nobody to blame but himself, because he's really just caused his own downfall at this point by not being able to realize that everything has changed around him, and that with the industry finally evolving and moving past accepting his mid as the status quo, these albums and strategies that he has been using are just no longer gonna work. So when it comes to GNX and Kendrick Lamar ruining this album from Drake, which again is the big claim he's trying to make and that he is gonna continue to push, so just get ready for that. I mean, in a way, you could say Drake is right that Kendrick is a reason why this thing is failing, but it's not because of industry games and that they are suppressing Drake to push Kendrick. But it's because Kendrick Lamar has just delivered a better collection of music and experiences to fans at this point by far. With all of this coming together at the Super Bowl, which is now bringing hip-hop to entire new boundaries, which we are seeing as Kendrick Lamar now has over 100 million monthly listeners, which is by far and above a record for rappers. Overall, we are seeing right before our own eyes that hip-hop and music has moved on from Drake and is now enjoying much more captivating music in every single sense of the word possible. And so while Drake will complain about all this, and I am sure what he is going to say will only get a lot worse in terms of how he tries to take zero accountability for this album failing and just put it onto everybody else as more numbers come from this thing, no matter how he tries to push this narrative and people like Akron and make everything they do push this exact same idea. Overall, Drake can change the truth of everything no matter how hard he tries, and because of this, as long as Drake and everyone around him stay in this place where they can't actually realize why the music isn't working and why so many other artists are just outperforming them now and it's not even close, they're only going to continue to fall, and as Drake clearly can't and won't accept any of this. Get ready for this to become the status quo, because we are only going to see this more and more from him. And so now with all of this said, let me know. What do you think of what Drake is trying to say about Kendrick Lamar and his music outperforming his new album? Do you think he is right at all? Or do you think he has lost a fair game and he just can't accept the reality of having to face that like I do? No, I can't wait to hear what you have to say, and if you made it to this point in the video, as I said earlier, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton and it is more important than ever. Now, if you want to see how just as Drake is blaming Kendrick Lamar for his album failing, he is making things even worse as he just can't handle how this album is going to become the biggest flop of his career. Check out the suggested video.
Do I dare even go to the comments, man? Someone said, this isn't Drake anymore. This just Aubrey now. Drake is finding out you can't keep putting out uninspired music and stay on top without your label shoving it down people's throat. It's hard for me to listen to music that has no substance. You know, I relate to Kendrick more, of course, because of a lot of the stuff that he talked to, like I talk about. I've seen it, I lived it. Like, it's one thing, like, as I got older, all right, for those out there, I'll be 45. If music don't have no substance, I can't listen to it. I can't. Back in the day, it was like, all right, if I can dance to this, I'm good. It's like, no. It needs to have some substance, man. It has to. You know? Like Kendrick said, keep making that music that'll get me to wave my hands and stuff. I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of y'all know what I'm talking about, what I'm feeling. Yeah. I don't know, man. This dude is definitely spiraling out. I feel like he's getting a taste of it. Like, Kendrick called him out. A lot of people, and I feel like there still are a lot of Drake fans. But I feel like a lot of them may not really understand the beat. Like, people are still breaking down Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance. They are still breaking down and showing all the hidden messages in there. Thought-provoking. Like, does Drake music really make you think? That's all I'm asking. Peace out.